Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be exploring the work of physicist Julian Barbour,
Oh, fantastic.
who offers just a really unconventional perspective on time,
Right.
entropy, and the structure of the universe.
Absolutely.
And we'll be drawing mostly from interviews and lectures with the man himself,
Okay.
where he kind of lays out these really radical ideas.
Yeah, what I find so interesting about Barber's work is that he's not just, like tinkering with the edges of existing theories.
Mhm.
He's like proposing a full-on paradigm shift.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about challenging some of the most fundamental assumptions in physics,
Absolutely.
even the nature of time itself.
Yeah.
So, Barber's starting point is this. What if time, as we experience it,
Right.
is actually an illusion?
It's a radical notion, for sure. He argues that instead of thinking of time as this kind of river flowing from past to future, we should envision it more like a collection of snapshots, similar to
What?
like the stills of a movie.
Okay, so instead of a continuous flow, it's more like a series of distinct moments.
Precisely. Each snapshot represents a complete configuration of the universe at a given instant.
Mm-hmm.
And our experience of time, according to Barbour, emerges from the observed changes between these snapshots.
But if all these snapshots exist simultaneously, wouldn't that mean the past and the future already exist?
That's one of the kind of mind-boggling implications of his model.
Yeah.
He suggests that the past and future are just as real as the present,
Mm.
just not accessible to us in our conventional perception of time.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, time, in Barber's view, isn't like a fundamental aspect of reality,
Right.
but rather a construct of our perception.
That's the core idea. What's truly fundamental, according to Barbour, are the relationships between things,
Mm.
the configuration of matter, the shapes and ratios that make up the universe at each of these snapshots.
This is a lot to take in. It really challenges everything I thought I knew about time.
Yeah.
But if time isn't this driving force,
Right.
pushing us from past to future,
Mm-hmm.
how do we explain the directionality that we observe in the world?
Yeah.
Broken eggs don't spontaneously reassemble,
Yeah.
and rooms don't magically clean themselves.
Right, right. That's where entropy comes in, which is the traditional explanation for the arrow of time.
Right.
So conventional physics views entropy as a measure of disorder, and it argues that it's constantly increasing,
Okay.
leading to a more disordered universe.
Right, the classic example of kind of the inevitable slide into chaos.
Exactly.
But Barbour seems to disagree with this interpretation.
He does, yeah. He argues that the entire concept of entropy as time's arrow
Mhm.
is based on a flawed premise.
Okay.
The assumption that the universe is a closed system,
Mm.
like gas trapped in a box.
So he's saying the universe isn't just some self-contained entity where
Yeah.
everything's gradually winding down.
Exactly. And he has a point, right? I mean, we know the universe is constantly expanding. So applying the rules of a closed system might not accurately reflect what's happening
Okay.
on a cosmic scale.
So Barbour disagrees with the traditional view of entropy.
Yeah.
But how does he explain the increasing complexity and
Right.
structure that we see in the universe?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. From the simplicity of the early universe
Mm-hmm.
to the intricate web of galaxies and stars and planets and, life that we see today,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like a system descending into disorder.
You're absolutely right. And this is precisely where Barbour's perspective diverges from the conventional wisdom.
Okay.
Instead of seeing entropy as the dominant force,
Mhm.
he proposes this fascinating concept called the Janus Point.
Yeah, I've heard of this. It's
Yeah.
kind of a mind-bending idea.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Imagine a point in the universe's history of minimum size
Okay.
and maximum uniformity, so like a smooth, featureless ball.
Okay.
Barbour suggests the Janus Point isn't a beginning, but rather a midpoint, with time flowing in two directions from this state of maximum uniformity.
Hold on. Two directions of time. How can time flow in two directions?
It sounds paradoxical, but think about it this way. Imagine two people climbing down
Wait.
opposite sides of a mountain, like, say, Mount Fuji.
Right.
As they descend,
Right.
their experiences are similar, even though they're moving in opposite directions.
Okay.
The landscape changes in a comparable way for both hikers,
Yeah.
even though they're heading towards different points at the base.
Okay, I can see that. But how does this relate to the Janus point and the idea of time flowing in two directions?
So Barbour argues that both sides of the Janus Point experience time flowing forward,
The-
just like those two hikers both experience moving forward as they descend the mountain.
Okay.
It's not that time is going backward on one side.
Right.
It's that the direction of increasing complexity of the universe, evolving away from that initial state of uniformity,
Right.
defines the arrow of time.
So the Big Bang, in this view, isn't like a beginning, but more like a transition point
Exactly.
with two diverging paths of time.
It's a profound shift in perspective, for sure.
Yeah, but if time isn't this linear flow,
Right.
what determines how the universe unfolds?
Well, that's a great question. And that leads us to like a really key aspect of Barbour's work.
Okay.
He emphasizes shapes and ratios as being fundamental to understanding the universe.
Yeah, I remember reading something about that.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like he's suggesting the universe is one giant geometry problem.
There's more to it than that, but you're touching on a key aspect of his thinking.
Okay.
He often uses triangles as an example. Like, he points out that the shape of a triangle remains the same,
Right.
regardless of its size.
Right.
What truly defines a triangle are the ratios between the lengths of its sides, or
Wait.
the angles.
Okay, so it's not about absolute size, it's about the relationships and the proportions between things.
Precisely. And Barbour suggests that instead of focusing on, like, the absolute size and expansion of the universe,
Okay.
we should think about the evolution of shapes and relationships between its parts.
Right.
Like, instead of thinking in terms of absolute quantities,
Hmm.
we should focus on the patterns and relationships that emerge.
So the universe isn't expanding into something bigger.
Right.
It's changing its shape, its internal relationships over time.
You're getting the idea.
Yeah.
It's a shift in perspective.
Okay.
A move away from thinking about the universe as, like, this ever-expanding container
Right.
to seeing it as a network of relationships,
Mm.
constantly evolving and rearranging itself.
This is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to wrap my head around how this all plays out in practice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, how does a universe driven by shapes and relationships actually function?
Yeah.
Where does the Big Bang fit into this picture?
Right.
And what about, like, the role of gravity and all the other forces we know shape the cosmos?
Those are excellent questions, and they lead us to one of the most intriguing aspects of Barbour's work,
Okay.
his development of what he calls Newtonian Big Bangs.
Okay.
These are mathematical models where he explores the consequences of a shape-driven universe, but within the framework of Newtonian physics.
Newtonian Big Bangs. That sounds like a contradiction in terms.
It does seem paradoxical,
Yeah.
but that's what makes these models so clever.
Okay.
Barbour is kind of pushing the boundaries of Newtonian physics, using it as a tool to explore what happens in these very specific scenarios,
Okay.
where all the particles in a system collide simultaneously at
sure.
their common center of mass.
So these Newtonian Big Bangs aren't meant to be like a literal description of the universe's origin. It's more like a thought experiment
Yeah.
to see how a shape-centric view of the universe might work.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
And what's remarkable is that these models, despite being based on Newtonian physics, actually exhibit many of the features we observe in the actual universe. Features that are traditionally attributed to general relativity and the Big Bang.
Hold on. So he's getting Big Bang-like behavior out of Newtonian physics?
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
That's where things get really interesting, and I think it's a good place to pause for now.
Yeah, I think our listeners need a moment to process all of this because it really is mind-blowing stuff.
It is, yeah.
We'll delve into the details of these Newtonian Big Bang models in part 2,
Okay.
explore their implications for our understanding of the universe,
This is good.
and tackle some of the critiques and counter-arguments to Barbour's theories, so stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. Picking up where we left off, let's delve into these Newtonian Big Bangs.
Okay.
It sounds like a paradox, right? Using Newtonian physics,
Yeah.
which assumes absolute time
Right.
to model a phenomenon like the Big Bang.
That's what I'm struggling with.
Yep.
How can you have a Big Bang, an event associated with the breakdown of classical physics
Right.
within a Newtonian framework?
It's a clever approach, and it highlights like a crucial aspect of Barbour's thinking.
Okay.
He's not claiming that these models are like a literal representation of the universe's origin.
Okay.
They're more of a tool to explore the implications of his shape dynamics, to see if a universe governed by relationships and patterns can behave in ways we traditionally attribute to kind of these more complex theories.
So it's like a testing ground for his ideas.
Exactly.
A way to see if this radical perspective can actually produce a universe that looks like ours.
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating
Yeah.
is that these Newtonian Big Bang models do exhibit some remarkably familiar features.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, remember how Barbour challenges the traditional view of entropy?
Yeah.
These models actually demonstrate how a universe can start from a state of high uniformity,
Right.
like that smooth, featureless ball analogy we used,
Right.
and then evolve into a state of increasing complexity and structure.
So even within these Newtonian models,
Yeah.
which are based on absolute time,
Yeah.
you can see a kind of emergent arrow of time
Yeah,
arising from the increasing complexity of the system.
precisely. That's the key takeaway here.
Okay.
Time, in Barbour's view, isn't this external force driving the universe forward.
Right.
It's a consequence of the universe's inherent tendency to evolve towards states of greater variety,
Okay.
greater differentiation, greater complexity.
Okay, I'm starting to grasp this idea of emergent time.
Yeah.
But these Newtonian Big Bangs still feel a bit abstract to me.
Okay.
Can you, walk me through how one of these models actually works?
Sure. Imagine a system of particles
Okay.
governed by Newtonian gravity.
Mhm.
In a typical scenario,
Yeah.
these particles would move around in a kind of somewhat random fashion.
Ah.
But in a Newtonian Big Bang model, Barbour sets up a very specific initial condition. All the particles are arranged so that they're moving directly towards each other,
Okay.
destined to collide simultaneously at their common center of mass.
So it's kind of like a perfectly choreographed cosmic dance
Yeah.
with all the particles converging at a single point?
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
Now, here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
When you run this model forward in time,
Yeah.
you see the particles coming together, colliding, and then
Yeah.
scattering outward.
Okay.
But if you reverse the direction of time in the equations, something remarkable happens.
What happens? Does everything just go back to the starting point?
Not quite. Instead of retracing their steps,
Okay.
the particles follow a different path, one that leads them back to a state of high uniformity and low complexity,
Okay.
a state that resembles the conditions we associate with the Big Bang.
So it's like running the film of the universe in reverse.
Yeah.
But instead of arriving back at the beginning, you end up at a different starting point.
Exactly.
One that's similar in terms of uniformity,
Yeah.
but not identical to the original state.
That's a great way to visualize it. And the crucial point here
Okay.
is that both the forward evolution
Right.
towards increasing complexity and the backward evolution
Yeah.
towards this Big Bang-like state
Right.
exhibit an arrow of time, a directionality,
Okay.
even though the underlying equations are based on absolute time.
Okay. My brain is definitely getting a workout here.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to appreciate the elegance of this idea.
Okay.
It's like Barbour saying that time isn't some external force imposed on the universe.
Right.
It's like an emergent property
Yeah.
arising from the universe's inherent tendency to evolve towards states of greater complexity.
Exactly. And these Newtonian Big Bang models
Yeah.
are a powerful demonstration of that concept.
Okay.
They show that you can get a universe that looks a lot like ours, with an expanding space-time, a clear direction of time, and the formation of structures,
Right.
all without invoking exotic concepts like dark energy or inflation.
But if we accept this shape-centric view of the universe, doesn't that raise even more questions?
Sure.
What about the role of quantum mechanics?
Right.
How does Barbour's model account for, the weird probabilistic behavior we observe at the subatomic level?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of one of the most controversial aspects of Barbour's work,
Okay.
his skepticism about the need for a separate theory of quantum gravity. He suggests that the strange and counterintuitive phenomena of quantum mechanics
Right.
might actually be emergent properties.
Wait, hold on. He's saying quantum mechanics might be an illusion.
He's not saying it's an illusion,
Right.
but rather that it might arise from a deeper level of reality
Okay.
that's governed by shapes and relationships, a level we don't yet fully comprehend.
Okay.
Remember those correlations he talks about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where certain geometric configurations of particles can lead to patterns and behaviors that, look quantum,
Okay.
even if they arise from a deeper classical framework.
Okay. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
It's the idea that what appears random at the quantum level
Right.
might actually be deterministic at a deeper level,
Yeah.
driven by these hidden geometric relationships.
Exactly. It's a mind-bending idea,
Yeah.
and one that's met with a lot of skepticism within the physics community.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
It challenges one of the most fundamental assumptions of modern physics,
right.
the idea that quantum mechanics is the most fundamental description of reality,
Yeah,
to suggest that it might emerge from something deeper,
yeah,
something classical,
right.
is incredibly radical.
It is radical, but that's what makes Barbour's work so compelling.
Yeah.
He's forcing us to reconsider
Mhm.
our most cherished assumptions,
Right.
to question whether our current understanding of the universe is
Mhm.
truly complete. And honestly, it's kind of refreshing to hear someone challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
especially in a field like physics,
Hmm.
which can sometimes feel dominated by dogma and kind of established theories.
I agree.
Yeah.
And even if Barbour's ideas turn out to be incorrect,
Right.
even if they're ultimately disproven,
Yeah.
the very act of exploring them, of
Mhm.
engaging with these radical perspectives,
Right.
can lead to new insights
Yeah,
and
it's
unexpected breakthroughs.
like shaking up the snow globe,
Yeah.
seeing the familiar patterns dissolve,
Right.
and then watching as new, unexpected formations emerge.
That's a great analogy. And it highlights why we do these deep dives, why
Right.
we delve into these complex and sometimes controversial ideas. It's
Yeah.
not just about acquiring knowledge, it's
Mhm.
about expanding our horizons,
Mhm.
challenging our assumptions,
Yeah.
and maybe even catching a glimpse of a reality
Bravo.
that's stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive
Sounds good.
into the work of Julian Barbour.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
from the concept of Newtonian Big Bangs
Right.
to the mind-boggling idea that quantum mechanics might emerge
Hmm.
from a deeper classical reality.
And we haven't even touched on some of the wider philosophical implications
Oh,
of
great.
Barbour's work,
Yeah.
the questions it raises about the nature of time, free will, determinism, and the
Yeah.
meaning of existence itself.
Those are discussions for another time.
Absolutely.
Join us for part 3 of our deep dive,
Oh,
where
yeah.
we'll explore those philosophical implications,
Right.
delve into some of the critiques and counter-arguments to Barbour's ideas,
Okay.
and try to make sense of what it all means
Yeah.
for our understanding of the universe
Hmm.
and our place within it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the mind-bending world of Julian Barbour.
Yeah.
We've been, exploring his radical ideas about time,
All right.
entropy, absolute.
And the shape of the universe,
Yeah.
but there's still so much to unpack.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
We've touched on some pretty heavy physics concepts,
Right.
but what I find truly fascinating
Yeah.
are the philosophical questions Barbour's work raises.
Mm-hmm.
If time is emergent, not fundamental,
Right.
what does that mean for our understanding of,
Yeah.
free will,
Tricky.
determinism, and the very meaning of existence?
That's what really grabs me, too.
Yeah.
The implications go way beyond
Right.
just equations and models.
Yeah.
If Barbour is right
Mm-hmm.
and the universe is this vast timeless structure
Right.
where every snapshot
Yeah.
already exists,
Mhm.
does that mean our lives are predetermined?
Yeah. It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries.
Right.
Determinism versus free will.
Yeah.
Barbour's model certainly seems to lean towards a deterministic view,
Okay.
if every configuration of the universe already exists.
Yeah. Within this timeless structure,
Right.
then in a sense, the future is already set.
That's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you feel like a character in a movie, just playing out a script
Mhm.
that's already been written.
I can see why you'd feel that way.
Yeah.
But Barbour argues that even in a deterministic universe,
Okay.
there's still room for kind of a compatibilist free will.
Compatibilist free will. What does that even mean?
It's the idea that free will and determinism
Right.
aren't mutually exclusive,
Hmm.
even if our actions are ultimately determined by the laws of physics and the initial conditions of the universe.
Okay.
We can still experience a sense of agency,
Right.
of making choices
Yeah.
that align with our desires and values.
So it's like we're still choosing,
Yeah.
but the options we have are already determined.
That's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's a subtle and complex philosophical debate,
Right.
and there's no easy answer. But Barbour's work certainly adds a new dimension to the conversation,
Okay.
suggesting that the very framework of time
Yeah.
within which we typically consider free will
Right.
might need to be reevaluated.
Oh, okay, so free will might still be possible even in a barbarian universe?
Yeah.
But what about the meaning of life?
Right.
If time is an illusion,
Hmm.
If there's no, like, grand narrative unfolding
Yeah.
from past to future,
Yeah.
does that make our lives meaningless?
I think it's the opposite.
Okay.
By challenging, like, our conventional notions of time and purpose,
Mm.
Barbour invites us to find meaning in the present moment, in
Yeah.
the relationships and connections we forge,
Yeah.
in the experiences we have,
Mm.
rather than in some, like, preordained plan
Right.
or ultimate destination.
So it's less about striving towards some future goal
Yeah.
and more about appreciating the richness of the present moment.
That's
the
right.
intricate web of, like, relationships and experiences that
Mhm.
make up our lives.
Precisely. Barbour's model, in a way,
Okay.
liberates us from the tyranny of linear time,
Right.
from the pressure to
Mhm.
constantly be striving
Mhm.
towards something
Yeah.
that lies beyond the horizon.
Mm.
It encourages us to embrace the beauty and complexity of the present,
Yeah.
the kind of ever-evolving tapestry of
Mhm.
shapes and relationships
Right.
that constitute our reality.
It's a beautiful and profound perspective.
Yeah.
Even if it is, like, a bit challenging
Right.
to fully grasp.
Yeah. But as with any radical idea,
Yes.
there are bound to be critiques,
Right.
counter-arguments.
Right. What are some of the challenges to Barbour's work?
One of the main criticisms is that, while his ideas are mathematically elegant and
Mm.
intellectually stimulating,
Right.
they lack empirical support.
Mm.
There's no direct experimental evidence
Well-
to confirm, like, the existence of a Janus point or the emergent nature of time.
That's a fair point. It's one thing to, like, develop a beautiful theory,
Right.
but if it doesn't make, like, testable predictions
Exactly.
that can be verified through, observation or experiment,
Mm-hmm.
it remains in the realm of speculation.
Exactly. Another challenge is that Barbour's model
Yeah.
doesn't easily account for some of the, like,
Oh, yeah.
well-established features of the universe, like
Oh.
the cosmic microwave background radiation,
Right.
which is widely seen as evidence of the Big Bang.
And his idea that quantum mechanics emerges
Right.
from a classical framework
Yeah.
is highly controversial.
It is, yeah. Many physicists argue that quantum phenomena are fundamentally probabilistic
Mhm.
and cannot be explained by any, like, underlying deterministic thing.
Those are valid criticisms, and they highlight the fact that
Sure.
Barbour's work is still very much in development.
Absolutely.
It's like a work in progress.
Yeah.
An ongoing exploration of, like, radical ideas that challenge the foundations of, our understanding of the universe.
For sure.
But even if his theories are ultimately proven wrong,
Yeah.
even if they don't, like, stand the test of time,
Right.
the very act of engaging with them,
Absolutely.
of wrestling with these kind of profound questions
Yeah.
about the nature of time,
Mm.
reality,
Yeah.
and our place in the cosmos is an enriching and enlightening experience.
I couldn't agree more. It reminds us that science is not just about, like, finding the right answers.
Yeah.
It's about asking the right questions,
Right.
challenging the status quo,
Mhm.
and exploring, the vast unknown
Yeah.
with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the work of Julian Barbour,
Yeah.
I'm left with a sense of awe
Mm-hmm.
and a profound appreciation for, like, the power of ideas
Yeah.
to challenge our assumptions
Absolutely.
and expand our understanding of the universe.
I agree.
Well, thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep questioning, keep seeking,
Yep.
and never stop diving deep
Couldn't agree more.
into the mysteries of the universe.